Welcome back to another episode of Dbd Myths Busted. This is the series where you guys make suggestions on edge case scenarios and perk and add-on combinations for me to investigate and conclude as true, false, or in need of further research. In our last video, we looked at whether flashbang, blast mine, and chemical trap gain progress quicker on generators with brand new parts. And many of you rightly pointed out a mistake that I made in keeping the toolbox in use. Total oversight on my part, please accept my apologies with this retake of that myth. We'll apply weaving spiders instead, as that has the same effect as applying a brand new part. Okay, let's jump into this week's myths. If you have any suggestions, by the way, make sure you leave them in the comments with the word myth somewhere in the content of what you write, and please like any submissions you see that you want me to investigate. I do one of these every single week, so if you enjoy this video, consider subscribing for more. Increasing your field of view increases the angle that you can get blinded. This one was submitted by Swedish Dwarf. Patch 7.5.0, released back at the end of January, added a field of view slider to the settings. This increases the angle that you can see, but does it impact the angle at which survivors can blind you? I.e., if you increase your field of view, will you make flashlight saves and blinds easier? Let's find out. So for this one, I set the field of view up to the max and then attempted blinding until Feng was right on the edge of the screen. And then adjusted the field of view back down to the lowest, to the point where Feng wasn't even visible anymore, then had her re-attempt the blind. As you can see, it still worked. So I re-raised the field of view and had her continuously move stage left until we reached the absolute point at which you cannot blind, then move stage right very, very slightly until it worked again. By this point, she wasn't even visible on the screen at max field of view. And setting the field of view back down didn't prevent the blind from working. So I'm quite comfortable in saying that this doesn't work and that field of view doesn't impact blinding angle. Champion of Light and Chemical Trap stack. This one was submitted by Froster1247. Chemical Trap allows you to set a trap on a pallet. When the killer breaks that pallet, the trap explodes and the killer is slowed by 50% for 4 seconds. Champion of Light applies a 20% hindered effect to the killer for 6 seconds when blinding the killer. This means that the killer will be slowed. Historically, we've had some perks that apply standard effects like speed boosts or slowdowns that have been moved to applying a status effect instead to ensure that they can't be abused to stack. Before exhaustion was a thing, for example, each exhaustion perk had its own unique cooldown. And as Froster points out here, Champion of Light's tooltip states that it doesn't stack, but Chemical Trap isn't applying hindered. So, will they stack? Let's find out. It's hard to see here because of the blind, but there are a few frames where we can see just how ridiculously slow the killer moves. Yes, these two perks stack. I mean, look at this. This isn't slow motion. I haven't adjusted this footage. This is the actual speed that I was moving. It's ridiculously slow. Picking up a trapped pallet doesn't destroy the trap. This one was submitted by Justin Inox. You can pick up dropped pallets using any means necessary, but what happens if you do this to a pallet with chemical trap applied? Will the trap remain waiting to be dropped and kicked later in the game? You can chemical trap fake pallets. This one was submitted by Maury Cool Guy 4715. The Doctor's Order add-ons create illusionary pallets when survivors are in madness. These disappear when approached by survivors, but is there a point where you can get close enough to them to have the chemical trap prompt appear, and if so, can you place a chemical trap on them? Flashbang, Blast Mine, and Chemical Trap will gain charges from weaving spiders. This one was submitted by the Adam Arongir, and he said to pronounce it Arongayar, but I'm not going to. Adam Arongir. Yeah. Flashbang, Blast Mine, and Chemical Trap all activate after working on 50% of a generator. But what happens if weaving spiders is applied while you're working on a gen? Getting picked off the ground with weaving spiders activates Soul Guard. This one was submitted by Harlem and Duck. In one of our recent videos, we found that if you start a weaving spiders invocation, get knocked down, and then someone else completes the invocation, you will actually get picked up. Soul Guard is a perk that triggers when you're healed or recover from the dying state, granting endurance for 8 seconds. But will being picked up via weaving spiders trigger Soul Guard? Fire Up speeds up grabs. This one was submitted by MSXEXE or MSX.exe. Fire Up gains a token for each generator completed. Each token grants a 4% buff to picking up and dropping survivors, breaking things, and vaulting windows. But does it also apply to grabbing survivors off of gens, since that's technically a pickup action? I decided to test this with locker grabs as well, so here you go. And finally, Tinkerer activates sooner when a brand new path is applied. This one was submitted by Lewis Joined the Party, or at No Milk For Me, which is a lot funnier than Lewis Joined the Party. So, Tinkerer activates when a generator reaches 70% progression. But what happens if a brand new part is applied to a gen? Will Tinkerer activate at 56 charges, that is 70% of the remaining charges, or 63 charges, that is 70% of the full value of the gen before the BMP is applied? Let's find out. Okay, so I paused both of these on the exact frame when the red stain was no longer visible. This is not the precise moment when Tinkerer activates, of course, but it'll still be uniform across both clips, so it's fine for the sake of comparison. I then measured the pixels in the bar compared to the pixels remaining in the bar and found that the top non-brand new part bar was at 74% by the time the red stain vanished versus the bottom brand new part bar at 66%. This is enough of a discrepancy for me to conclude that this does work. Tinkerer will activate sooner on generators hit with brand new parts, which makes sense if you think about it, because if you applied more than 3 brand new parts to a gen and it only triggered at the same set number of charges, it would never actually activate for that gen. So yeah, it works. So there you have it, another 8 Dbd Myths Busted. As always, a big thank you to my patrons Nova Keck, Sylvan, Jinx Likes Magic, Lilith Card, and Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong button. And Channel Manager, Chipstar878, along with YouTube members Jinx Likes Magic again, Nova again, Howsy, Chipstar878 again, and Meme Lord. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.